Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome into the channel. My name is Brett with Investing on the Go. Today we are continuing our series of no 8 to 5 living from our brokerage using Robinhood. This is going to be week 28 update of 2026. Now in this video, we're going to go ahead and hit up on a few different areas. Number one, we did have some dividends pay into the account. So we'll go ahead and cover what paid out dividends, how many shares we had of it, and how much it paid per share. And then we'll jump into our buys and sells. I did make a video earlier this week going over our buys. I completely biffed buying anything in my dividend account this week over on Robinhood, but we'll recap on what we purchased earlier this week. Then we'll do a quick recap of our dividend portfolio and income breakdown. I like to kind of, go over these on a week-to-week basis to kind of just give a quick snapshot of how our portfolio moves from week to week. Then we'll jump into our dividend and margin journal update. We had quite a bit of capital outflowing from our portfolio to pay down some bills, our credit card, our car payment at the beginning of the month. So we'll go ahead and cover the margin journal, showcasing all of that. And then we'll jump into our Robinhood live dashboard to kind of go over everything throughout the week on the daily on Friday and then throughout the week as well. So with that said, if you guys are brand new here to the channel, I'd really appreciate if you go down below, smash that subscribe, smash that thumbs up, drop a comment down below if you guys have any questions, and check out the pinned comment to join the Discord server or get some goodies. You can get between $75 and $475 by sign up for SoFi. So if you guys are interested in a high yield Zivd account, otherwise, let's go ahead and jump into the video. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and dive into our market update. I know that's not up there, but we did have some news this week, right? I posted on Thursday. We had a downtrend. Let's pop over to the S&P 500. Let's look over the, here's the last month. We started our downtrend back on the 2nd of June and have been kind of in this, as it is a downtrend. Now, we did try and break out on Monday. We did break above the down, but we went into it through Tuesday and into Wednesday, bottoming out for the week down in here right around 8:30 in the morning Pacific time before recovering and not just, hitting that resistance point at 752, but we actually broke the downtrend and continue breaking out higher, which we posted there on Instagram. It's like, hey, we closed above the downtrend, massive technical setup. If we hit the double top and we held in support at 745, look into Friday as potentially moving into the 752, 754 going into Friday. And look at that, S&P 500 closed very nicely on Friday at $754.88. So this is a good sign going to next week. Now we have, obviously some resistance here along the way. One's gonna be probably around 756, and then definitely at that all-time high of 760.40. So it'll be interesting to see if we are able to continue moving higher, breaking through those two resistance points and end up breaking into some new all-time highs going into potentially next week or even the week afterwards, depending on how earnings goes. Netflix is releasing some earnings next week. Financials are getting into earnings next week. So it'll be really interesting. Financials have been doing really well. If we pop over to the sector specific stuff, we can see in the green, we have energy up positive this week. That's the most, of all the sectors, energy's up the highest at 3.21. In the purple here, we have technology. Technology has been getting beat these last few weeks. Now technology is beginning to kind of turn around. It's up 3% this week. Then we have communication services up 1.87. And then we did see healthcare in the blue down here. That is down 1.76%. But if you go back over the last few weeks, it's actually been going up really nicely over these last few weeks. It's actually been, along with finance doing really well. Let's see, finance is orange. Oh, okay, finance is in the 0.14. I thought I saw something else. But yeah, if we look at the 1 month here on the sector specific ETFs, that should show a bit more on the healthcare. So let's go ahead, let this thing load up. Okay, so technology. Oh, not technology. So industrials over the last 1 month is up 7.23. Technology is purple. It's at 5.18. So right now, over the last month, we have financials up 6.66% in second place. Healthcare at 5.23% in that third place, and then technology is in that fourth place right now. You know, we have some other sectors down here still positive. Consumer discretionary at 3.3. In the orange here, we have utilities at 3.2. In the brown here, we have consumer communication services at 0.57. In the red, over the last month, we have consumer staples. And then in the green here, down 5.44%. Now that the war had that ceasefire, energy has pulled back quite a bit. Yes, we had that missile exchange earlier this week. You know, President Trump came out saying, hey, the ceasefire is over. And there was some exchange of firing back and forth. That did cause energy to spike up here this week. And it's not elevated as to where it was in the past, but it pulled back quite a bit within the last month since the ceasefire was initially initiated. Okay, so that is a bit of the weekly recap. I guess we'll see how next week plays out going into the next week. Now, dividend payouts. We did have some dividend payouts. Let's go ahead and pop over there. Now, in terms of what happened this week with dividends, we had the NEOS boosted S&P 500. This is ticker symbol XSPI. We have 5 shares here. It paid out 0.7004 per share, which totaled $3.50. Not a whole lot, but you know, I was kind of testing these. It's easier for me to visually see how these do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis by having it in my portfolio. Next up, we have ticker symbol XQQI. This is the boosted NASDAQ 100 high income ETF. Again, we have only 5 shares of this one, but this one paid out 0.8772 per share, or $4.39 for all the shares there. Together, that's $7.89 that was paid out this week from our ETFs there. Not a whole lot, but hey, I like to document all the dividends regardless of how small or how large they are. They're all contributing to our portfolio. I also did a, like reward over on my credit card. So paid down my credit card this month and rolled the rewards during the week into the cash account, because I should be doing this often. The less margin that I'm using on a day-to-day basis, it's less interest being charged. So anytime that I do have points that I can redeem on my credit card, I'll be redeeming them into my individual account, which is what happened right in here. I redeemed 1053 and 192, and that was it. I didn't actually end up buying anything. So the next topic I'd usually cover is buys and sells, but I didn't end up buying anything in my Robinhood account. We kind of covered this already on our earlier video this week. I spent about $25,000 buying the S&P 500 SPY. The reason I targeted SPY, I had a question on this, is, usually when I'm looking at the daily charts, I'm looking at SPY. So it's what's in my head. Normally I would buy into VIEW, but here I can visually see SPY. Yes, it costs more on the expense ratio, but for me, it's more like a visual thing where I'm able to just visually see it and buy it. And eventually, I'm not sure if I'll buy at the moment, using Fidelity, any covered call ETFs at this time. Right now, my Robinhood portfolio generates a good amount of dividends that's needed to cover my monthly expenses. I also have my rental business that's also will begin flooding more capital into my Robinhood account, or other miscellaneous income as well. So if I'm able to accumulate roughly 100 shares of SPY over at Fidelity, I can begin to sell some covered calls on SPY once again. And that's kind of the route I was kind of figuring I could do. We'll see how it all plays out. But we can see right in through here, we picked up about 33.77 shares of S&P SPY and bought it all for $24,999.72, which left us with only 28 cents left in my account to use. I went into the account again to see if I had more access to the capital that was available, but it's still locked behind a transfer wall. So you can see in here our SPY, we current price as of Friday close was $754.95. We did a nice purchase there at $740.25. So right in through here during this downtrend, we had that support right in this 540 range. And on Wednesday, we went ahead and initiated a buy. I didn't know whether the market would continue to trend down lower or higher. Honestly, we don't have a lot of uncertainty out there in the market. Yes, the ceasefire is kind of over. There's not very many ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Our oil reserves are super low, but all in all, the VIX is actually at a very low level volatility wise. And we're just going into earnings now. Financials, healthcare, technology is all working in our favor. And those are three of the biggest sectors out in the market. So if all of those three right now are working together, we will see the market as a whole begin to move higher. So I wanted to take the chance there of buying in, and then I have the other capital locked behind that waiting period. Well, I'll be able to dollar cost average, right? If I was able to, load up the whole hundred and some thousand at the time, it would have done, absolutely better at 1.99% gain on the week. That would have been nearly $2,000 just bought from Wednesday into Friday's close. But we don't have that availability right now. I do have $496.73 available to buy with. So going into this next week, I will definitely be buying both on Robinhood and Fidelity, continuing to dollar cost average in both accounts. So that's kind of the plan right there. And yeah, that's our buys and sells. Now jumping into our dividend portfolio and income breakdown, as I like to kind of cover this on a week-to-week basis. So this is our dividend portfolio income journal every week that we do buys inside of our Robinhood account that affects our dividend income. I go in here and I'll add the our little income journal indicator of when we purchased. The last time I bought anything was back on the 2nd of July. I didn't buy anything this week. I just kind of spaced it with the capital over at Fidelity. I wanted to focus on getting that invested this week, so that was kind of my prime focus. And we can see our shares in through here with T-SPY, TDAC, and IWMI. Those are our three biggest positions in this portfolio. Then we do have the satellite areas here with the IAUY, which is the gold high income ETF, and Bitcoin high income ETF. Those are much smaller. And then we have the testers ones, the boosted series on the NEOS boosted NASDAQ and the NEOS boosted S&P 500. Both have been performing okay, but it's just really hard to get away from using my Tap Alpha funds. Those have just been performing so much better in terms of even without the leverage, and they do now change their expense ratio even lower, where T-SPY is now using VU as its underlying, so it has a lower expense ratio than using SPY, and TDAC is now using QQQM versus QQQ, so its expense ratio dropped down around 0.08% on both of the funds. So it just became less expensive to hold, better overall income and total return with price appreciation, just because of it's able to capture more of that daily movement in the market. And it's been doing that really well versus a lot of the other funds that I've seen out there. I have seen some other funds outperform TDAC. I think GPIX was one of them that's been talked about quite often on some of the other channels, but I just haven't moved that way. The difference is only slightly, and time will tell, right? Time will tell. So yeah, everything in here is good in terms of our price appreciation. This portfolio is at 0.67, although we've chatted about in the past that the cost basis here doesn't account for dividends that have been reinvested and counts towards my cost basis total. So it's really hard to see. We're probably up much more than 0.67. And then with dividends, if we were to take our dividends and count those towards our total return, this would be closer to 6.6% with just the dividends paid out in the account. So that's it in terms of the dividend journal in there. Next up, we're going to go ahead and cover the dividend and margin journal. This kind of shows the dividends, back along with the line of our dividend payouts that we've received. So if we head over to the dividend journal, this is kind of keeping a tally of when the dividends have paid out within which month. So here in July, I've only received 3 dividend payments. We had T-SPY of $2,046.78. We had XQQQI, which paid out this week $439, and XSPY, which paid out $350. So far this month, we're at, it shows right there. Look at that, $2,046.78. And that is not correct because it's only tracking SPYs. So I'll fix that later. I'm not sure why it didn't take the recent additions in there, but I'll tinker with that and see why it didn't do that. If we were to take a look at our total dividends for 2026, we're sitting at 28,705 and 51 cents. Our average monthly paycheck is currently hovering around $4,784.25. And our daily cash flow just for waking up and getting out of bed every day is $149.51 from this account. So all in all, doing really well. Now, jumping into the margin journal. Now, we have a new week coming up. We have the 12th through the 18th of July that's coming up. And a lot of our data is already in here. So at this point, we'll go ahead and pop into our Robinhood dashboard. At the same time, we'll kind of just go over this here. But our portfolio value as of close on Friday is sitting at $357,808.86. So that all aligns right in through here. Our margin being used is $132,575. So $132,575.24. Okay, so across the board, our account value remains good. Our margin used remains accurate. Now, the other numbers that are in through here, we had those dividends. So we had the dividends from XSPY and XQQI, which paid out $7.89. That was the dividends that rolled into the account. We had cash. We cashed in. We had those cash back from the credit card rewards. So $10.53, $192. I did have some cash going out to pay down my credit card and my car loan. So we saw an external, cash out of $1,073.35, which was needed to cover the additional portion. And then we had our car payment, which is $592.17. So we had a cash outflow of $1,665.52. Yeah, we can see the slight uptick in our daily interest from 1624 to 1645. So this is why it's important on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis. If you have reward capital, then you can deposit it, kick it, redeem it, and kick it back into your individual account, because any margin that's being used is just going to drive up that daily interest. But this daily interest, as I said, it's controllable. Right now, we are maintaining between $125,000 and $135,000 of margin. The reason I'm using a substantial amount of margin in this account is because my Fidelity account, we flooded that one with capital from our real estate sale. So eventually, I'm hoping that Robinhood will do another 2 or 3% transfer bonus if you transfer brokerages from another portfolio into Robinhood. So at that time, I'll just take the capital that is sitting over at Fidelity. We have $109,201 as of now, and I would transfer that over. Where is this at now? I would transfer it from Fidelity over to Robinhood. It would pay down the margin being used from 132 by 109,000, bringing it down of margin being used. And then if the market did fall, I could amplify and use margin at that time to, spend another $125,000 of margin while the market is falling. But that's kind of the game plan. Right now, this is all controllable and it's being managed on a week-to-week basis just fine. We can see some weeks where we're not having cash out, we're having cash going in, where the margin is more controlled. Our initial margin started being used was back in early June, but I did do some sales and buys with our portfolio, so it's hard to keep all of those numbers incorrect. So I just went ahead and started it from the 14th of June 2026. We started with $135,000 of margin. Yeah, we can see here back on the 28th through the 4th of July, those dividends that rolled into the account going into this week. So we went from 132 to 130. That's a net change of $1,487 to, bring that margin requirement down. This week, going into this week, we did add that net change of $1,645 just because of the outflow. We did have some inflow through here, but the outflow to pay down our bills just kind of canceled it out and actually increased our net change of margin use. So that's all it is that's in here on a week-to-week basis. Now, we don't already kind of chat about and look at our Robinhood dashboard. We can see that the S&P 500 down here did a positive on the day of 0.42. our portfolio, while it does have, the S&P, it has the NASDAQ, IWMI was, kind of held back our portfolio a bit this week. And then we have some of those other positions kind of scattered in. Our daily return on Friday was up 0.33%. If we take a look at our 1 week performance over the past week, we are up 1.28% or roughly $4,500. Last week we're kind of about the same area. Again, we kind of check this on a week to week basis. So last week we're at 357,805. This end of this week we're at 357,808. So, and then we had an outflow of capital. So even though we did payouts, we took out some capital, pay down some expenses, and we have no expenses at the moment. We are rebuilding towards another month. We were able to maintain the equity despite that market volatility kind of happening in between. So let's see here. So we have the 1 day, the 1 week, and everything else kind of matches up in here. Not a whole lot more to see in here because we've already kind of covered the margin and some of our other things. So if there's anything you guys would like to see kind of covered in a future video, let me know down in the comment section below. But I like to do these weekly videos to kind of showcase the performance and progress of our income portfolio over at Robinhood and using it to cover our expenses on a daily, monthly, yearly basis. So that's going to be it for this video. If you guys have any comments or questions, definitely drop them down below. Otherwise, please go down below, smash that subscribe, smash that thumbs up, and drop me a comment if you guys purchased anything this week. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.